Hi, everybody. This is Sherry Bowers with ConnectedSpirit.com and Connected Spirit Tech Tribe. And today is Tuesday. And normally, I used to do regular calls, Tech Tuesday calls that were live calls. And this year, I'm just going to fess up that I've been really having a challenge getting that done or doing it at all, even. So I think I'm going to try and switch that up a little bit to make it easier for me to be consistent and then actually help you with some of this information, being able to share it. Somehow it's just becoming really hard for me to get the live call happening. So I'm gonna today I thought I would just kind of record this and then get it posted for everybody because and we'll go from there. So what I wanted to talk about today was GDPR, which you may or may not have heard of, and that stands for, and I always have to think about this because it's the General Data Protection, General Data Protection Regulation. It's a law that's been created by over in Europe. It applies to any residents or anybody in the countries of the European Union, and anybody. So it applies to us here in the States kind of by default because we all have people on our lists from other countries. So if we do, this also applies to us, and it's very and it goes into effect May 25th. It's quite a bit more involved than any of the other privacy laws that we're kind of used to here in the U.S. We're used to the spam can spam laws, which are pretty much you just have to, people can opt out if they want to, which is kind of our views of privacy in the States are probably the broadest and least the wimpiest kind of, as far as protection. Our view here tends to be, well, if you don't want if you want to protect your privacy, then you need to opt out. And Europe is taking that and flipping it completely around. That if they're going to give us permission to use any of their private information, they have to give us permission specifically, right? Versus just, well, if you don't want me to keep track of your name and email, then you have to opt out, type of a thing. So it's a lot stricter. It's a lot more factors to it, and and at least for the people in the companies that are in Europe, there's very steep penalties and fines attached to not complying. It's a new law. I think with any new laws, and this is my personal opinion, I'm not giving legal advice, of any sort, but just my understanding is that, there's going to be, even though this was passed a while ago and it's just becoming, going live really on May 25th, there's going to be a little bit of a period of all the businesses kind of figuring out, okay, how do we actually do this? How do we actually comply and create our software systems to comply? So what does this mean for us? What does this mean for us? And basically let me get the specific rights. So the GDPR gives certain rights to all of European Union residents. So anyone that's from the European Union that's on your list, they have these rights, and we have to be able to provide that to them we have to be able to provide it. So what are these rights? There's the right of access. And what that is you or your customer can ask what personal data we're collecting from them and how's it being processed and why. What are we collecting? Why are we collecting it? And where are we keeping it? They have right to know that. They have right to rectification. So if there's something that they want corrected, revised, removed from the data that we're collecting from them, which for most of us it's name and email address, right? Maybe a phone number, maybe an address if it's a client we're working with. Maybe it's files or information depending on what we're doing with them. Maybe it's credit card data if we're we've got a payment agreement with them, right? All of these things. So they've got the right to rectification, to correct, revise, or remove any of the data that we're keeping on them. They have the right to be forgotten. So if they want to cancel their account and have their information permanently removed from our systems. So it's kind of beyond, oh, I just want to unsubscribe. It's like, I want to unsubscribe and you better delete me and everything about me, right? So they've got that right. They've got the right to restrict processing. So, if they could say, I don't want you to keep my name and address. You can have my email, but I don't want you to keep the rest. We have to be able to comply with that. The right of portability. They've got the right to say, okay, I want to move any of my data that you have. I want to move that and give it to somebody else. A good example I can see for me is if I'm helping people with website pieces, right? And I've got, they're using, say, my website backup service. So I've got backups of their website. And they could say, well, I'm going to go, over here and have this company do it. So I would like all my, backups to take with me. And I have to be able to, provide that to them. The right to object. And that one is, if they don't want us to use their information anymore in analytics or in to provide targeted email, they have the right to object and say, no, I don't want you to track what I'm doing on your site and then send me targeted marketing stuff, right? So it really takes things to a new level of responsibility for us and what we do, and honoring their privacy on the other hand. So this is kind of just the basic overview of what the rights are, and the fact that it applies to us, to anyone in the world who has anybody as a client, as a subscriber, as an affiliate that is from one of the European Union countries, that we need to kind of get our ducks more in a row and change how we do things a little bit. So what I'm going to cover, I think this is kind of going to be a theme for my Tuesday recordings for the rest of this month and probably into May, because there's so much to kind of cover here, and there's a lot of steps that ideally we should all be taking to prepare for this and get ready for it. So what I want to talk about in future calls is kind of so how do you even do this, right? How do you track what you keep track of, and where it all sits in your systems and your computers, and how you can provide that back to them if they need, if they request it or they want to move it. What sort of proof do we need to keep that we are complying with these things? How do we need to change the way we opt people into our lists so that we've got the proof that we are compliant with this? And finally, maybe just some steps on, okay, what do we need to do first? How do, what sort of forms can we put together just to help us stay organized and keep track of this information so that we've got the proof that we're complying, right? So with that, this was just kind of like a little bring it to your awareness if you haven't heard of it before. And we're going to be getting into more detail of what this means and what we need to do to comply in our own businesses, no matter where we are. All right, so with that, you have a wonderful Tuesday, and I will see you next week. Bye.